and Healing Program brought to you by You Zimbabwe Trust. You Zimbabwe Trust seeks to promote tolerance, peace, and inclusive prosperity in order to deepen social cohesion at all tiers of Zimbabwean society. As we approach by-elections, today in the studio, we are joined by three gentlemen from different organizations. I'll allow them to introduce themselves. Gentlemen, you may introduce yourself.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending from where you are. My name is Womberai Nende. I'm the deputy spokesperson of CCC, the yellow thing, the trendy.
Good day, everyone. My name is Benoni Zimbabwe National Students Union President, representing all the students across the country and beyond.
Okay. You say you may introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tawanda Mazango. I am the programs coordinator for Lupane Youth for Development Trust based in Matabele North in Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Talk about youth and peaceful electoral participation. I'll start with you, Womberai. What's your take on peaceful participation?
I think, thank you very much, my sister. I think the first thing that we perhaps need to look at in terms of participation of young people is the traditional manner in which they were participating and the change in the terms of their participation now. In the recent past, you'd see that young people were actually the perpetrators as well as the victims of violence in electoral processes. But we have tried by all means to change the narrative so that we involve them to be part and parcel of the decision in the policy making. That's why we have young candidates being fed into different public offices that do exist. As we go towards the 26th of March, you realize that we have young people that are supposed to get into by-elections as MPs, as councillors. So we are changing the trajectory to a system where they were used by older people, older generations, for them to get into power, rather than the young people getting into power and changing the narrative to say young people must participate progressively towards emancipation of themselves, towards economic development, towards the broader political context where they choose and decide the destiny of every young person in a sustainable way.
Benon, as a student representative, what's your role in making the students register to vote, or rather participate in electoral?
It's pretty much simple and measured at the same time. What we do is we mobilize the students, we conscientize, because we want them to choose or to elect or to influence a change or a decision that benefits them too. So it should be noted that when we're saying students, yes, we refer to those on campus, but we also refer to their friends that are not on campus, those ones that are not attending school. So we are targeting everyone and we're making sure that they all register to vote, because what is the point of having 50-year-old people registered to vote more than the 18-year-old plus, when we know that these 50-year-olds are already at the conclusion of their lives, but then these ones are still starting. So these are the people that should be really concerned about registering to vote, and we're making sure that they're concerned by conscientizing them, and then make sure that they register by making sure that we get to their institutions, we target to where they are found, and then we get them to register to vote.
Okay. Tawanda, why is it that many youths, they register to vote, but then when election comes, they do not vote?
Okay, first of all, we need to understand that young people, they are very migratory. What's mostly pushed this migration trend is because we'll be looking for economic ends. And we're looking at a situation to say they are not stable where they are. At any other time, they might be called for work or opportunities in other areas. And in most cases, they have less resources to travel, or their resources are constrained to say they can even budget to say, I was registered to vote in Victoria Falls. Probably by the time that they'll be supposed to do registrations, during that time they'll be working or at school in Harare or Mtare. You find they'll be constrained to have money to travel to their places of registrations. Then the second issue, the young people, they register. Like if we are to follow the current trend, there's so much talk about mobilizing young people to register. But when it comes to actual days of electoral participation or voting, there will be less traction or less people that will be conscientizing young people to actually go and vote. And it's, the third factor is necessitated by violence, which is meted by those with the political power. In most cases, we find that violence will be targeted at young people. That drives or that most likely pushes them to migrate away from their places of registration, places that they would have registered. I would also say another issue is about culture of participation, which is not inculcated in young people at their tender age. You find at village level or at community level, there are structures of youth participation. This includes SDC committees, we talk of VITCO committees and WADCO committees. In most rural areas or in most communities in Zimbabwe, these positions are filled by people of elderly age, and young people are always pushed away. And you find they're excluded from participating in these meetings. They're excluded, their voices are excluded to be heard when in the process of making development plans, be it economic plans in communities. They are not even allowed or given an opportunity to share their dreams or their vision about their communities of residence. I would say another factor is lack of representation in political parties. It's only now in the last 5 years that we have seen a change of political culture where political parties are now mainstreaming young people. But looking back 5 years and before 2018, you find the majority of political party positions were filled by people that are of elderly age, and this discouraged young people to even participate in elections because the motivation or the incentives for them to even participate were less, as witnessed by lack of representation in those political parties. Even in government, the positions are mostly filled by people of elderly age, which is a very big factor in terms of discouraging young people to participate in electoral processes. Thank you.
Okay, you have mentioned young people being violent. What's your take on that? What can be done to prevent that?
I mentioned young people being victims of violence or being tools that are used to make violence on political opponents. This is mainly driven by lack of political consciousness among young people, and also driven by their exclusion in development structures or in elective structures. And usually this will drive them, or it actually pushes them at the periphery, where they will be given some incentives to go and attack so and so. So it's mostly to do with exclusion of young people in meaningful participation.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Ombere, what's your take on what Tawanda has been saying?
I think I agree with almost everything that he has been saying, especially the issue to do with the changes that have occurred in the recent past, and also the factors of migration. But I think there is a very pertinent issue that we must look into, to say the culture of participation across everything amongst young people, especially issues to do with development, issues to do with politics. There is an old saying that says politics is a dirty game. And we are now living in a generation where smartphones, smart youth, and all, they don't want to get involved in the politics that they have seen and known as the culture of politics. So I think we need to repackage and brand and conscientize the young people to say politics does not happen in that manner. so that they become part and parcel of it. Yesterday, I was listening to a program on Star FM where it was being discussed about involvement of young people, young women in politics. This was a very key issue about the issue of violence on women being perpetrated by other women as well as as well as men within the political spectrum. So you find that violence becomes a common denominator in anything that is revolves around politics, and that becomes a deterrent factor to participation. So a young person wants to go and vote on the voting day. Then they see the chief is seated at the door at the polling station. And that chief is the representation of Armageddon that will follow if you are going to be voting for anyone that does not suit their political preferences. So given that circumstance now, you find people will say, I'm not going to the polling station. So the participation now becomes eroded just because someone is looking at their personal safety. So what then should we then do? We should make sure that when we want people to be actively involved in politics, it becomes a process of involving them. The students on the other side, you have churches on the other side, you have community-based organizations on the other side, where there is collectivism amongst the players in building a society, where people are told that in the political spectrum, the behavior amongst the participants and the contestants must be such that tolerance is of utmost importance. A young person from ZANU-PF must be able to be seen with a young person from Citizens Coalition for Change, eating together, conversing, cross-pollinating on ideas of development. So that at the end of the day, whenever someone wants to say something that is negative towards each other, there is something that draws them back to say, he's my brother, she's my sister, but we are coming from different backgrounds or political affiliations, but towards the greater goal of ensuring that there is development, a development matrix that is focused on developing a greater Zimbabwe. If you build that as the starting point, you will find young people who come to participate. Because not everyone is what is supposed to be wearing even regalia. You see, tomorrow we were saying that we want to make it a yellow Friday. But I tell you, someone is actually willing to be wearing that yellow, but they are not even having the guts to be walking in town wearing yellow. Because they will fear victimization by other people. Even people from ZANU-PF who used to wear yellow, tomorrow will not be wearing yellow. Fearing victimization, just that you're wearing yellow, just wearing a card. So those issues must then cascade to a nature whereby young people are demystified of the fear. Young people are told that progressive politics is about ideas. Okay. So it's a contestation of ideas, not a contestation of how physically beautiful you and how much fist can you throw towards the next person without them returning, and you call yourself a winner in the contest of politics. Beyond that, we are going to have a good trajectory towards the development of politics and the involvement of all young people.
Okay. Ben, your take.
Okay, on the issue of participation of young people, from the student perspective, I think the leaders that are running or that are in charge of the political parties are the ones that are supposed to initiate the peaceful engagements. Because by virtue of them being leaders, it means that the rest of the people behind them will follow them. That includes the young people. So in the event that these leaders become misleaders, that is when the violence comes in, or that is when the young people are going to step off the participation because there's now violence. And it should be noted, who initiates violence? It's someone who has got the capacity to initiate violence, someone who has got the apparatus to initiate violence. That is the first person whom we are supposed to make sure that they are kept in check, that they do not initiate such actions. And what we do as the students, is to identify and expose and bring to account. We reprimand, we bring it to account. So it does not matter which political party it is, but when we notice that this action that you're now taking is now going to force a number of young people to step off the arena of politics or participation, then we'll quickly call you out and say, no, this stuff that you're doing now is off. You're not becoming a mentor now, you're becoming a tormentor. And it does not matter which color it is, which political party it is, but then what we just want is a future where the young people are part of, whether 10 years to come, political parties change, leaders change, but the young people will always be young people. But this generation will not be the young people at that time. They are supposed to be somewhere, and they're supposed to be initiating a future for these young people. So you'll find that we will not allow people that are at the conclusion of their existence to initiate a hostile environment for people that are actually at the introduction of their lives. So that is our standpoint. And we are willing to participate. The students will participate, the young people participate across all provinces. Right now, as we're speaking, we've got provincial chairpersons mobilizing the union and the students to register people to vote. Not only that, we're encouraging the young people to participate and actually contest in these elections, and we will definitely support. And remember, I said young people. I did not say young people from where and where. We said young people. We do not support people by virtue of a political party. We support people by the virtue of the idea that makes us fit into the tomorrow. So we are very aware. To assume that young people are used by political parties to make violence, I think it's very wrong, because these young people that you're talking about young people that actually reason too. So when you see something happening, it means something is provoked such an action. So it is important to note that let's not jump and then try to talk about the violence that is happening. Let us try to find out exactly what was the reason why there was no violence. Is it because there was rigging? Is it because people are being denied the right to register? Is it because the registration locations are far from where they can reach? Why are they now violent? Is it because someone is forcing them where to vote for? Because that's how you're going to solve the problem. So what we will do is to identify the problem. When you see violence, know that damage has already been done. So solve it from the root, and we'll expose. The problem was when so and so, or when this ministry or when this institution came and decided to respond in a physical manner when people were just looking for answers, or when people were just asking, why don't you bring the registration office closer to us? So when that person responds in a manner that is different from the answer, I mean, if you go to ZEC and you ask them, can you please decentralize your voting registration centers, bring them to the institutions, and then they slow it down? It's not like we will be speaking from a position of as an individual. There will be a lot of young people behind that will push for that. So when you ask for that and then you see that there's a delay in such, then you start wondering, why would you delay to do that? It's just a normal and a fair process. So when they don't get the answer fast, they will ask in a different manner now, because the thing is to get an answer at the end of the day. So now that we ask in a different manner, and then you find that the person who brings the answer is no longer ZEC. Maybe you find that the police is now the one that is bringing such an answer. The security is now bringing such an answer. How does the security answer a question of bringing registration centers to institutions? How does the security answer the question of making registration accessible to everyone? ZEC is supposed to answer that. But in the event that they choose someone else to answer, then that's when young people start to ask in a different manner, because they're not addressing a different person. So I think the authorities and the political parties should note that whenever they engage, whenever they decide to answer, they should know that there is people behind the young people. They are willing to participate, but they are also willing to go on their own way when they realize that these people are pushing their own certain agendas. Because at the end of the day, it's our future. We can't just allow it to be used by certain individuals for personal benefits. We just want the benefit to be for everyone and for a long time. That's our position. We just hold them accountable, reprimand, and make sure the ground is fair for everyone.
Okay. So when the young people decide to answer violently, what then does the party do?
I think from what my brother was saying here, brings in a very important fact, who has been the genesis of violence in Zimbabwe for quite a long time. The security sector, the command element. You see women going to protest against certain issues like issues about social amenities, refuse collection. Peacefully so. They want garbage to be collected from their residences. They go to the executive authority, then the police come. Their engagement is riotous. and their tag is riot police. These people have been given a tag that then instills behavior in them. Instead of solving issues amicably, you find that they will then bombard people with baton sticks, clenched fists, those boots, and you have violence erupting. But the role of the party, as a party, we stand by values of solidarity, freedom, and justice. Whenever the downtrodden are being attacked, whenever everyone is facing injustice, when there are gross human rights violations, our position remains the same. We stand in solidarity and we act in solidarity. We eat in solidarity, we speak in solidarity. We just don't see and watch things in solidarity. We will act in solidarity. So, as a party, it has been our culture that when the workers go into the streets to petition against low salaries, it's a prerogative to the party as young people to say there's a young worker who's working at a Lavage Cement. That means the voice of the party. Because the Old People's Convention, the students, the workers, and the churches, and people from all walks of life. So it comprises a party that brings an alternative to the current situation. So solidarity will be offered in a manner that is either otherwise or wise, depending on the behavior of the police. In all the incidences that we've seen violent erupt in the presence of the police, it is the police that starts to attack people. There is no single incident that has been recorded in Zimbabwe where the people are the ones that attack the police. So the greatest perpetrator of violence in the Zimbabwean context are the people that are coming in police uniform, the people that are coming in black suits. And today we have that notorious game of the PRG that wear those black overalls. You see people shivering. People who actually put on two masks when they see them because of the fear that they put in people. They are just low unto themselves. They are stealing from people, and they are the first perpetrators of violence every time when it happens. So you find people are no longer free to act, but the party remains clear on the agenda to say we need to free Zimbabwe. Section 59 gives us the right to petition and demonstrate in Zimbabwe, and we always use that section to enact action so that there is change on certain things that you want to attain. So from my submissions, you can see that in anything that we're going to do, we're going to be in solidarity whenever there's injustice and there's gross human rights violation.
Okay, so what do you think can be done for us to have peaceful elections?
I think the institutions should respect themselves and also respect each other. Mm-hmm. If the security sector respects itself, it will know that now that I'm being deployed to go and beat people up, what is the reason behind it? If they respect themselves, they're not just going to do it for no apparent reason. And if other institutions that have got the power to command those security forces to go out there, if they respect the security forces, they're not just going to push them to do something out of their own personal agendas. So those are we cannot run away from the fact that the violence is not initiated by just citizens on their own, against who. But violence is initiated when someone who's meant to protect the citizens, the people, chooses the role to protect a certain person, not to protect the people. And then the people now end up having to protect each other. And how do they protect each other against someone who's holding a gun in the button stick? They have to group up. So these institutions, the security forces, they should know that the moment I am carrying a button stick in my gun and I'm now going there and I'm saying I'm fixing a problem, are you going there to fix a problem or are you going there to start chaos? Mm-hmm. Would you fix a problem by pointing the gun at a citizen who is asking for something which is democratic? Are you fixing the problem there? Yes, at 45 degrees. Or you're actually initiating a problem. But it starts with the way you respect yourself as an institution. Because if you don't have respect yourself as an institution, you're going to be used. to initiate violence. And then you twist the whole plot and say the society or the people or the country or the citizens are the ones that are initiating violence. But right now, if they're initiating violence, they would have done it on their own in the streets right now. They could be initiating violence on their own. But it happens when someone comes and stands on their way, someone who's supposed to be actually protecting and controlling the violence. So these institutions that initiate violence should be kept in check over and over again. Those in charge of ordering them to carry out their duty should also be make sure that they are sane people and they're also kept in check, because those are the people that initiate violence. So what we do as a union is to identify when there are loopholes. That no, this comrade is now acting out of point and using his office or his position or his gun or his weapon to initiate violence when he's supposed to be protecting us from this kind of predicament. So we will identify and we will expose and we will protect each other. That will do. We don't know. You don't have a choice. I mean, what else would you do if the someone who's supposed to protect you is now harming you? You have to protect each other. We don't have anyone else but ourselves. So at the end of the day, we just do what we have to do to have everyone safe and to protect the country, to protect ourselves. Not from the country, but from an individual or few individuals. So that we always do as a union, and we've always done that for years. Keep on doing it over and over again.
Okay. Tawanda, yesterday the court released the candidates. What's your take on gender dynamics there?
The country, and women they are shunned from positions of influence for other reasons that include culture. I would also say for this current nominations that happened yesterday, the processes of nominating candidates were rather not transparent from the both political parties. You would look at the ruling party, their own system, the primary elections, which produced, which did not try or to balance the gender issue. You go to the main MDC political party, you find there are also issues that are surrounded with violence. And you go to the current, the new baby in the country, the Triple C party, you find the main agenda was mainly to replace or to bring back its personnel that was recalled in the past years. So there was the whole process was not that open to include or to increase the number of women players in the political field in the country. We probably hope for the next coming election, the 2023 election, which is going to be more open, and there's too ample time to advocate for inclusion of women and for inclusion of more young people, as according to the numbers that we have in the country. We know women constitute the majority population in the country and the majority voters. The same can be said of women, of young people. They constitute over 60% of people that are registered in our voters roll. So we're looking forward to say going forward, it should reflect it should reflect in having more young people, more women as political players in the coming 2023 elections. Thank you so much.
Guys, what's your take?
Since you mentioned the occurrences of the choosing of candidates for the by-election within my party, perhaps I'm inclined to then respond. What we did was just that the Supreme Court judgment of 2020 had other judgments that came that were upheld within other sectors, the three tiers of government. The presidium would influence the judiciary And then the judiciary would have judgments that would then be implemented at Parliament, as well as local governance, through our Minister July Moyo. So we had our people being recalled from their positions. Within the logical thinking of things, it was sensible that the people that were occupying those offices would then retain, because they're the very same reasons why we're having these by-elections. And understanding that electoral processes, be it Congress, by-elections, or the harmonized elections, you have processes that happen behind them of elections that choose people. And in terms of the cohesion of any institution, an electoral process usually, in most cases, it destabilizes the party or any institution. So whenever an electoral process is avoidable, looking at the facts that are laid bare the ground to say these people were victimized through the capture of the judiciary, through the capture of the legislature. What then can we do? We say people must go back in, but not that alone. We had a process of confirmation that we had to do before these people were given the mandate to go back and fill their positions. Regardless of the fact that we recalled, you had to go through a confirmation process, which we are going to the stakeholders within each and every constituency or ward to say, this is Comrade Benon. Benon was a councillor. Do you still want him to represent you as a representative from the Triple C? And that process was done just to ensure that we have the masses and the stakeholders from whatever constituency you are coming from behind you as we go towards elections. Bearing in mind that by elections, there's usually low voter turnout. So we cannot be going into elections with candidates that are not popular, with candidates that are going to give us a hard time in terms of campaigning for them, convincing the people that we can put Yvonne into this election, and then the people are saying, no, we cannot have this election because of reason 1, reason 2, reason 3. So that was our process. So the balance of gender in this setup was going to be difficult. But what we then did was to ensure that where the people that were deceased, people had to go through processes of primary elections, and they were open for everyone to go into those primary elections. So regardless of the fact that it was being occupied by a male occupant, women were also allowed to contest for the primary election. So if you had won in that regard, then it becomes incumbent upon the party to have as the candidate. I'll give you an example of Quaker Central, where we have Judith Tobayo. That vacance fell, that post fell vacant when this guy from NPF died. When he died, then we had a process within the party. There was Blessing Chebundo and Judith Tobayo, a young lady. She's the deputy treasurer for the Youth Assembly. She went to that election and won against Blessing Chebundo. So it means women can get into electoral processes and be able to win against, because Chebundo was a big name within the party, but he fell victim to an electoral process. That was not flawed in any case, to the extent that he had to run away from the party, running away from a lady. So it's just the women not taking charge when these opportunities arise. So whenever there is a process to say there is an election, there is a position that needs to be contested, I think and I feel that women should then take charge. I was talking to someone before Zinasu with their own processes to say there's a tendency that these young ladies want to contest for the vice president, the students. That culture must change. You must have someone, a lady, contesting for the position of the president. But there's a contestation of women alone with the vice president. It's a culture that needs to be changed. Every position must be open for everyone, regardless of their agenda. So it's just a thing of people conscientizing themselves, having a paradigm shift in their thinking to say, we want to occupy these spaces. They're saying women and men are equal. So what then happens? Whenever there's a position that needs to be occupied, everyone must then go and take that position. Because other women have shown that they are capable of doing that. But What I would then say to the women themselves is that there is a need for them to be supporting each other before you rope in the men that believe in women leadership. Because the most subversive sabotage that I've seen in political arena has happened amongst women themselves. The pull you down syndrome is just beyond the imaginable heights. So you need to then, in your own caucus, say, sister, let's support each other. Then the brothers also come in, support you. Because the brothers are already having hegemony of power that they're already in control. And if you want to come and confront them with a divided front, I tell you, they're going to crumble like a
testimony because we have done that ourselves in the union. We've got structures that are occupied by females from provincial chairs, provincial SGs. So what we're saying is women should just take up that space because we're not going to just put on a silver plate. No, but what we'll do is the moment a female takes up that space, and then we'll support. And again, we're not going to support by virtue that you're a female. No, but we're going to support because you've taken up the space and you've got convincing ideas. So what I'm simply saying is we're not going to support a male because it's convincing against a female. But what we're saying is females should take up the space and we're ready. I can also safely say that I'll be one of the happiest presidents if I'm to be succeeded by a female next election. But can Emerson say the same thing? Can Nelson say the same thing? Can other political leaders say the same thing? If they can say the same thing, then it means they are ready to allow the females to take up the space because it starts from them. If they've never dreamed of it in their minds, then we are still far from achieving all that we're talking about. So we are ready. We're going to support every female that is thinking of contesting and all those things. Let them put up their ideas across. If they link well, we're going to put in the support from any divide. We just want to link with ideas. And the young people, the message to young people is we should not be afraid. Because the one thing that is stopping us from getting whatever we want is fear. The moment you get rid of that fear, everything is going to flow. We are so many and we are evenly distributed throughout the whole country, such that our decision can be brought to life in a matter of 2 or 3 days. Whether someone is carrying a gun or a shampoo or is shouting at the top of their voice, we can get those things done. So it's a matter of removing the element of fear and actually choosing a leader or leadership or supporting ideas that will know that they benefit the future and the present too, because we've got graduates that are unemployed right now. So it benefits the present and the future. And you have to make sure there's some biological things that you have to put in mind to the young people that look at who can you trust? Is it your fellow age mate? Is it your grandfather with the future? Two things that you should look into when you're making decisions. We should also protect the decisions that you make as young people. Because the people that we expected to come and protect that decision, they are not gone. You know, those are the same people that when you go to this to campus and say this fees is too much, they come and then they beat you up. At the same time, you are trying to speak on behalf of their child because we learn with their kids in class. So ngiyabengwazi nengintoziwa ukuthi umwana wemputisa umntwana wesotsha lo. They were saying this fees is too much. We were saying this electoral process is fraud. But then the father of it is going to come and beat us up. So you see, if a father can come and beat the child because they've taken an order from someone else to discipline their own child who is telling them the truth that no, I'm hungry, and then we're only left with each other. And we know that. We are very much aware and we are ready to protect each other, and we will do that. So young people should just take up the space, make a decision, stand by it and protect it. No matter what stands along the way, you just push through. That is the message we're going to do. Okay.
Tawanda, your last words to the youth.
I was saying my last words to young people is that there's a small number in international politics. It's just a reflection of what is happening at local government level. And I would encourage young people, since we are going into elections next year, around August going forward, there's going to be a selection of new SDC committees, VITCO committees, and WATCO committees at a bottom, at village level. And I would encourage young people and women to go in and participate in those selection of those committee members. From there, once we strengthen at a local level, at a village level, they will be able to air their views, to put their views through up to the district, from district to province, then at national level. Once we create villages that are so vigilant about their community issues, villages that are so vigilant about their needs, village members that are so conscious about their politics, I'm sure it's going to reflect, it's going to actually influence the national politics. Usually they say leaders that we elect, they're just a reflection of a society. So for us actually to have a better society or a better leadership, we need to start to work from the bottom. We need to conscientize young people. We need to encourage and support them to take up positions of influence in their communities of residence. Yes, of course, we want them to also occupy positions at national level. But let's also not forget to promote them. Let's all not forget to encourage them to go in and fill in those village positions of influence that we have, be it school development committees, etc. And from there, this is how, or this is where they get the leadership qualities. This is where they get the confidence to even stand up tomorrow to say they want to compete as a councillor, to stand up tomorrow to say they want to compete as a member of parliament or a national president. So my parting words is that in as much as we would want young people to occupy positions at national level, let's also not forget to mobilize them to also occupy these lower positions. Thank you so much.
The last words to your fellow youths.
Thank you very much. I think I'm going to speak to the youth in their different sectors. Firstly, I'll speak to those in parliament. The portfolio committee, parliamentary committee on youth affairs must be fully comprised by young MPs. We have young MPs going to look for committees that deal with mines and foreign affairs, leaving the youth issues unattended. That speaks to the young MPs in parliament. Number two, the youth in general. We need to push for a youth commission. We have a gender commission, we have a media commission, we do not have a youth commission. We just have Zimbabwe Youth Council there, and it's implementing decisions that are contrary to the ideas that push the narrative by the young person. That must be put. Those in local government, we don't want to hear any young person being embroiled in issues of corrupt activities at the local government. That must come to a stop. If we were harboring ambitions to go and loot stands, that must not happen from a young person's perspective, because we take things into our own hands as young people, as you move towards the broader trajectory of a better Zimbabwe. Then for the students, it must be your ability to speak and conscientize everyone within the spaces that you are living in. The use of social media, I think the young people must be, the students must be at the forefront of ensuring that on these spaces where young people are found, the narrative must speak towards developmental politics, politics that lacks violence, politics of ideas. You must be able to lead the conversations, be a voice of the young people that is progressive as we move towards. Then we have influencers that are on social media. You must be able to ensure that you're influencing positively. Anything that you speak that doesn't influence positively is a minus to the generations that we are looking at. We are looking at sustainable development, whereby today we build for the future without a compromise. And if you become a voice, if you become someone that the young people have chosen to follow, they must follow you because of progressive things that you are, doing. Then those young people in the security sector, it is incumbent upon you to make sure that even though you are working on a chain of command, your conscience, the decisions that you make must be led by the conscience that embraces humanity. Because you have been thwarting on the ethos of humanity for quite a long time. You are getting instructions that are contrary to the ethos of humanity. As we move forward towards the greater Zimbabwe, it is incumbent upon everyone within the security sector to act towards ensuring that the police are policing the correct things. The soldiers are standing to defend state sovereignty and state security, not to go and beat up people, not to go and maim and rape women in the wee hours of the day. Then lastly, to those that are coming up and saying, I'm a prophet, I am a pastor, I am an apostle, it is important that you stick to the word of God. Speak what God has given you, not that gives you a farm, or not that the leaders want to hear. We want things that are progressive. We want religion not to be the opium or the epitome of use towards suppression of the voices of the people, suppression of the aspirations of the people. A greater Zimbabwe is possible, and young people must then mobilize together and attain a greater Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was powerful words from the youths to their fellow youths. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. This was a Youth Zimbabwe Trust program brought to you by Zimbabwe Daily. Until we meet again, it's a goodbye for now.